introduce our speaker. You guys are going to love her. It is an amazing talk and exhibit that she's doing. It's a little different and it's seriously cool. Take it, Liz.
Well, thank you, Prez. I'm honored to introduce Lavaille Cambell. I met her at the BG Gallery, and I want to say, first of all, I'm supposed to start the recording by saying, thanks, WPW members, and it's time, Arlene, to start the recording.
Yeah.
Lavaille Cambell, and to quote her, she says, "I am an artist who works with fabric, thread, and a home sewing machine to create contemporary quilts that are non-representational abstractions. My compulsion to create has encompassed everything from creating macrame wall hangings to seed beadwork, to printmaking, to painting acrylic flowers on my sister's Volkswagen as a kid." She says, art is her life and it has saved her life through the years, and she wouldn't be able to survive without it. So take it away, Lavaille, and welcome.
Thank you. Okay, let's see if we can get this screen shared.
Yep, you can screen share.
Did we get it?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. Okay. Good morning. Oh, sorry. Good afternoon. I think I was born an artist. I drove my family crazy because I was always doing something, this, little Black kid in this middle-class family, and they really didn't know what to do with me. I'm the middle child. I have an older sister 3 years older and a younger sister 10 years younger. So I was this weird kind of in-between kid. Always been creative. I had gone to Otis for a while, but I couldn't afford to stay there. This was in the 80s. So I was just working on my own, waiting for the next program, the next appropriate thing for me to do. And then I was stricken with breast cancer. And this is cool that I did. I decided I was going to make a quilt. So I was going to have all this downtime. So this is my first quilt. It's a log cabin quilt. And it clearly I didn't know anything about quilting because a lot of the fabrics have worn. They were kind of woven fabrics and they weren't conducive to making making a quilt that would last. So it's pretty much in shreds now because I, have used it a lot over the years. This is a quilt that I did. It was one of my uncle's funerals, and my father's sisters and brothers were a lot older than him. And they were from Louisiana, talking about stories of, growing up in Louisiana, and their great grandmother was not originally brought to the United States. She was taken to the Spanish-speaking islands, and they couldn't really understand her. She was always telling stories about, women. Oh, what happened? Is everything still there?
No.
No,
Right, no.
Oh,
we see the Zoom.
yeah, you lost your screen. You need to go back to your screen.
Okay. It says I'm viewing by soften screen. I don't even know what to do.
Maybe go to view options.
Ooh, are we back?
And
We see you, but not your screen.
Oh. Huh.
Make sure everyone is muted except for Lavaille.
Okay,
It also might help for folk to turn off their cameras. Lavaelle, do you see it on your screen top, your desktop?
Yeah,
Your
I'm going back.
slideshow?
I'm going back in.
Okay.
Perfect.
So can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. And we were here. And this quilt is about slavery and how they pulled a woman up to have sex with her, and they would use a sheet between them so their skins wouldn't touch. And when my aunt was telling us this, I just kind of this weird kind of, I don't know, the state of, I couldn't even concentrate anymore. I had to get home and make this quilt. Took about a month to get it finished, but the top is cotton, satin, and silk. And the back of it is burlap, and it's print work on it. And this is actual blood. I was, you can't make paint look like blood. So I went to my butcher and I said, "Do you have any blood?" And I said, "I'm an artist, so I had to explain this whole thing." And it really made a difference because it changes
Excuse
color.
me, Lavaelle, could you put
Yeah.
it back on slideshow?
Oh,
There you go.
okay. And it changed color. It was really weird. It was really bright red, then it would get really dark, and it would be brown, and it would get red over a week's time. And I knew it was done because I came into my house and it's like a rush of cold air. It was a really hot night, a rush of cold air. And I just kind of had this piece. I knew it was done. So I put the quilt together. And there's a quilt square in the middle of the hole on the front. It's called a mariner's compass. So I thought that was appropriate, on this quilt. And I also do ceramics and bead work, and mixed media work. This is the yellow piece is from one of my first solo shows, and it's kind of about the end of breast cancer. I have a whole breast cancer series, and the pieces went from black and silver to pretty and beaded. So, and the piece in the middle is the Huichol is a community in Mexico that does this beautiful beadwork. And I was given a deer's head, and I had to know how to do it. So I took the ear off and just kind of carried it around with me for a week. And I figured out that the beads weren't perfect. And so if the beads weren't perfect, I could do it. So it took me about a month, like 8 hours a day for a month to get this thing finished. So it's in a 10-inch plate. And it's flocked, red flocked on the back. And the mini retrospective is just kind of a conglomeration of a lot of things I do. The glass, I really came to the glass later, but beadwork and the Black Eyed Peas have something to do with this really bad incident I had at UCLA. And this little screaming baby I showed you in my last show. This is some of my ceramic work. I started in the ceramic school to learn how to throw. A friend of mine was teaching, and my hands weren't strong enough. I didn't understand the way of throwing ceramics yet, so I just started slab building these bowls. So, and learning how to glaze and what the different glazes do.
those are beautiful.
Thank you. This is my first moderately famous quilt. I'm a modern quilter, an improvisational quilter, and we have a conference every year called QuiltCon, and I won first place in improvisational piecing. which was very cool. In the first QuiltCon, so it was really nice. It's just a lot of red. It was really hard working on all this red because it affects the cones in your eyes. So everything is miscolored after you work on a bright red like this. I still use the log cabins. They're really kind of a staple with me. I like to use them all in one color. So you see the solid red one, even though it's solid red, it's still a log cabin. And the other ones are more improvised log cabins. This is a quilt. This is really dear to me. A friend of mine named Marion Lane was a painter, and I reinterpreted one of her paintings. She did like splotches of acrylic paint. She would do the splotches on plastic, she'd peel it off, and then she'd put it onto a canvas or onto a piece of wood. And I really liked her work, so I did this piece. And she loved it. I did it, and then I showed it to her. I was afraid to show it to her because I didn't get her permission first, but she really liked it. This is more the way I felt now. I've kind of went all over the place learning the different techniques, and there's a lot to learn in quilting and learning how to quilt on your own home machine. And the piece on the left, this was actually shown at QuiltCon too, but it was really fun, and using the color, my two favorite colors, the wasabi and the pickle, and ash is the gray. And then I was just trying different techniques with the quilting on this one, and see my little log cabin. The piece on the right is learning curves is really hard to do in quilting. It's counterintuitive because you almost have to sew the piece backwards to get the curve to work. So I was just got curves, learned my curve with this piece.
So beautifully quilted too.
There was a woman named Gwen Marston who was like the queen of quilting. She's passed away, but I wanted to take one of her classes. I missed her class at QuiltCon, and I was able to get into her last class in San Luis Obispo. So this is a series of work that I did after I had my class with Gwen. She was fabulous. And it's really funny, when I discovered her, I went, someone is quilting just like I quilt. Her design was the same, and then I started following her, and we kind of thought the same when it came to quilting and design.
What was the biggest takeaway from your workshop with her?
To not be so tight with doing the work. We did use rulers. I mean, there's some teachers that teach with no rulers, and that drives me nuts. But just to have more ease with it and make it more playful, because and not so rigid, because I get really rigid when I'm working, and when I want something to look a certain way. And she was just so cool with it. She was just really low key. Her work was so beautiful, and it's like no big deal, So it was kind of nice to be around her for a week and just take her in.
Was this designed as you went along, or did you start this particular one with an idea that she then helped you achieve?
No, it's all improv. There is a common design in the top, like there's a black square with two yellow lines with red surrounding it. It's in each piece, like the top section. And that's kind of what I use to start the piece. But it's all improv.
So beautiful.
This is some of my glass work. And I wanted to show you this because this is a whole other process and a whole other set of equipment. And I had to be really careful because when I really like doing something, I have to buy all the equipment. So I've got a glass kiln in my living room and also a ceramics kiln in front of my fireplace. But what happened with the glass, I was starting to see quilt patterns, obvious quilt patterns in the glass. So I started I made the quilt on the left, and then I made it in glass. And the bottom one it's the opposite. I did the top one, I did the glass first, and then I did the quilt. the bottom one, I did the quilt first, and then I reinterpreted it in glass. And it was really fun, the push pull of the hard and the hard and the soft of it. But it was really fun. I did a nice series of these. I haven't done any glass work in a couple of years, but glass is addicting the way clay work is addicting.
How large are these?
These are small. The top one is probably 6 by 6, and the bottom is probably 15 by 15.
They're really beautiful.
Thank you.
Just love them.
I love the interplay of glass and fabric. You know, when you talk about a hard and soft relationship, I mean, it's such a great way to play with those two very distinct forms.
Yeah, it was really fun doing it. The only hard part about working with glass and fabric, I couldn't work with them at the same time, because the glass, you have little shards, so I would have to clean everything up, not the fabric, because you cut yourself all the time when you're working with glass, and you don't want to bleed on your fabric. It's hard enough with all the needles and pins. But yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed this work. And this is one of my larger pieces I did for Marion, the painting that I reinterpreted. She was ill and she was stricken with cancer. So this is Marion's quilt. She did a lot of work in black and white, and she passed away 2 years ago. So I'm glad I was able to do a quilt for her, and now her mother has it.
How big is that one?
The piece for Marion,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 60 by 60. So it's big enough to cover her, but not bed size. These pieces are from a show that I did when I was represented by a gallery in Chinatown called Coagula Curatorial with Matt Gleason. And this is I was really kind of embedded in all the illness I've had in my life, and I wanted to put it into some quilting. So the first piece, right breast left, was I try to put a little humor either in the title or in the piece. So that's kind of a self-portrait. And then everything kind of went from there.
I love that piece. I'm a breast cancer person,
Mhm.
and I get that piece.
Yeah.
I do it.
I
So
love
I
the
kind
colors.
Yeah, I
me
worked
too.
with that colorway through the whole show. This is kind of a partial list of my problems over the years. And this is raw edge reverse applique, where you put a piece of fabric down, you put your batting down, then you put another piece of cotton, and then you put a piece of jersey on top of it, cotton jersey. So then I outline the letters, and then you can cut out the letters and the jersey won't fray.
Mm.
So you just cut out, the letters in between the quilting. So that was a fun process. It took a long time. It took longer than I expected. Yeah. But it's about 36 inches square.
Wow. So each piece is cut out separately, each of the letters, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then you sew them on to the quilt? Is that?
No, you put the quilt sandwich together, and then because it was jersey and jersey moves, I kind of attached the top of it, the jersey on the top of the cotton sandwich, so it wouldn't move. And then I did the quilting around the letters.
Oh, okay.
And then I cut them out.
Okay.
Is that hand? Is
It's
that
really
hand quilted?
unique.
Is that hand quilted? Around the
Yes,
legs?
this is hand quilted.
But the others are machine quilted.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, the quilting is fabulous, though.
Thank you.
The hand quilting, yeah.
You don't see a lot of letters in quilting, which is unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not as unique as you think. in the modern guilds, there are more letters coming through. There's a lot of social justice stuff coming through, and just statements like this statement quilt. The little girl that was in the back seat when Philando Castile was shot. When they put her and her mother in the back seat of the police car, when they got them out of the car, she said this to her mother because her mother was freaking out, and she was just trying to calm her mother down. Mom, please don't keep cussing and screaming because I don't want you to get shooted. She's 4 years old. And when I heard that, it was just another one of those times where it just stopped me in my tracks, and I went, oh, I have to do something with those words. So this is denim. I didn't know what she had on. I try to interpret what they have on. So I just pictured her in jeans and pink. That's what most little 4-year-old girls are wearing. So this is also hand quilted. It's hand tied because denim is so dense. Even though I use an industrial machine, it would take them forever to finish. And it's twin size, the size of twin bed, and just a lot of tiny piecing, the little squares around. So I did another one. I haven't photographed, but it was kind of a similar idea of, a kid that went through something really terrible in the public, and, the police were called on him, and he was 10 years old. And I'm sorry I didn't put that in here, but I should have put that in here. Now that I have two, I have a third one that I'm thinking about working on now.
What did the second one say?
It was a little boy who was in a bodega, and his book bag brushed against this woman, and she said that he was touching her. So she goes out and calls the police, and he was hysterical. And it said, I don't remember what it said, how he was humiliated, how he felt humiliated because of what she had said and what she had done. And so he was in his school uniform, so it's khaki and green because he had a green shirt, blue because his book bag was blue. So those are the colors I used for his quilt. This is a piece that I did. A friend, Lava Thomas, and I received a Facebook Artist in Residence grant when they were putting their new building up in Playa Vista. So there were 10 artists, I believe 10 artists, and we each had a floor, we each had a wall. And so our concept was we never worked together. We've been friends forever, never actually done a piece together. So her son was able to digitize one of my 10 by 10 inch quilts into this 20 by 30 wall. He just kind of repeated the pattern and took the texture out of it. And what she did was she uses a lot of circles in her work and a lot of tambourines. So she used the image of Shaka Khan, Roberta Flack, and Tina Turner. So from a distance, you can see their faces differently. So it's really beautiful. And then I went back in, I also do tufting. So I added some texture with some tufting in the same colors. Making rugs is fun too.
Was this printed out with the bottom layer that was digitized, you said? Was it printed out in order to apply it to the wall?
Yeah, it's wrapped. You know the way they wrap buses with advertisement?
Okay.
It's that kind of thing that's plastic, and we wrap the wall.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And I was telling the Liz's that we were really sad because I finished my part of it. There were a few of us in the building. They were just starting to move in. And then COVID hit, and they were supposed to have this big party so everyone could see this work we had done. But COVID hit, so we weren't able to have the party, but now Facebook has moved in, and, it's a whole company, so you can't have people just kind of, wandering through their job site. So we weren't able to show off our pretty work. But this was the February 2020.
Well,
Is
it's
it still there?
unusual. Oh,
I'm
sorry. You go,
Is it-
Liz.
Thank you. Is it still there?
Oh yeah, the building this was before they moved. They were in a different part of Playa Vista. So they moved into a bigger space, and this was the bigger space. So we were in it when the building was raw. And they were still, putting walls up and, things like that. So we were in with the construction workers.
Wow.
Well, what I was going to say is that there's some whimsy and humor about this, even though it's kind of a serious subject, but I like your whimsy.
Oh, thank you. I try to keep some of it in. Things can get so dark, and I can get dark, but there's always something funny. There's always something that takes your head out of the bad stuff. So, but it was really beautiful. All the buildings were beautiful. This is my show that was in this past June at Craig Kroll Gallery. And these pieces were just kind of a transition of my work from being so not digital, just really graphic and hard lines. I wanted to add curving in. So I did a lot of work because I did that one piece on curves and I hadn't done curves in years. And it's just always a fear of doing curves. So I made a point that this show was going to be curves and, just different style from the way I usually work. So I have the sizes on these.
Okay.
And that's Bridget. She's the gallery person. She's wonderful.
So, wow.
So this is a limited color palette too.
Whenever you're ready, I can stop.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
okay, no problem. Pieces on the left are tiled pieces. It's kind of hard to describe how you put this together, but it's just layering. You start from the bottom and you work up. It's just, matter of measuring each. You fold the fabric, you measure it, and you put it down and you stitch it. And the quilt is really heavy because it's like 4 times the amount of fabric. It's not just one sheet of fabric, it's folded fabric. So they're heavy, but really satisfying result. I really like them. I don't know if I'll make another one. I made 5. But I've only made one of the pointed ones, the red one. I think the red one was on your newsletter. But they're just, really satisfying. And the piece on the right is the first piece I did with serious curve work in it, where I made it a point to curve and to slice. I do really tiny, like 1/4 inch and 1/8 inch inserts. That's all machine pieced. So it gets the seams get really tricky. You have to press everything out, and then you get ready for the quilting part. And yeah, that one that's the one.
I was going to say it's beautiful, and each piece, that's a lot of work to me.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
A lot of work. So each piece is separate, right? I mean, and
yeah,
and so on. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, you just gotta build them.
Yeah, okay. It's beautiful.
Those folded ones have to be a nightmare to iron.
Well, you do the ironing beforehand. Just I use a lot of starch. I'm a starcher to my heart. So my fabric it's almost like working with paper. So it's not so hard to do because I use so much starch.
Wow.
It's just laying them out and making sure that the measurements are right. And I brought back there's my little guy. I brought him back in this show with some beadwork. Just, with the scene that we're in with politics, it's just so angering. So this is just, the purge one. I did 100 little pin cushions, and they're all quilted differently on the right. And that was kind of fun. I really I do a lot of small work. So, and made the little pin cushion, the little pins with the skull heads, and that was a building process. It's, like now it's all separated.
Okay. Tell me your inspiration for binary. What does that mean? And tell me, what does purge mean? Because I saw this purge up close, but there are all those beads coming out and flowing out of the mouth. And what is your inspiration, and what does that mean?
It's more just frustration of what of the climate that we're living in. It's just so hard right now just to be happy, and you have to be so on guard with how you deal with people when you're in the public now. And I'm a people person. I'm introverted, but I'm still a people person. And it's just, you know, you just come home and close the door and you just want to scream and just let it all out. And that's what, you know, that's what it is. It's just, you know, stop all the madness, and, you know, that's pretty much what Purge is about. Just, you know, just screaming it out, letting it all out, all the bad stuff coming out. And binary, you know, that's one that I did that I'm not really sure where it came from. Every now and then I create things where the words come after, and I can't really explain them when I do them. But just, it's kind of the same, like purging of the bad stuff, just in a different form.
Is there a nod to LGBT or non-binary? Is it in that frame, or?
No, not at all. I wasn't thinking of that at all. Just the, you know, since it's two, you know, that's where binary. I always go to the dictionary when I'm thinking of what to name my pieces. When I can't come up with the words, and when I saw binary, I went, okay, it's a current word, even though it's not used in the way that it's used currently in our, you know, vocabularies.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just definition of two. Nothing more than that.
So can you give me an estimate of the size of the Purge piece?
The Purge pieces they're small. They're maybe 4 inches square, each of them. And they have beaded borders, and they're flocked. I use a lot of flocking too. I haven't shown you a lot of flock pieces, but yeah, so they're just pretty little pieces. It's a small little sculptural piece.
And what are the sculptures made, the little faces on binary and also the little figure on Purge?
They're
What are
ceramic. They're low fire
ceramic?
clay. Yeah.
Mhm.
And glazed black glaze.
Very cool.
And this is a piece that I did for you guys, so you can see how a small piece goes together. This is a small piece I did I have a retreat this weekend, and this is one of the gifts I'm giving to my fabric fairy. So as you see on the left, the dime shows you how small that piece is. And you just build from there. You know, I just did, you know, all our log cabins again. Then start sewing them together. And, you know, kind of design, it's improv. So actually it's kind of improv, because I've done this one before. And since I was doing it again for Lisa, it's perfect timing, because I was able to do this in stages and show you. This is the final piece. It's not bound. I just but it torqued on me. The only thing about working small like this is you can get a twist in the piece, in the work. And for some reason, this piece torqued on me. But when I finally did bind it, I was able to correct it. But that's the final piece. And
What do you use on your back, the back piece?
Just another piece of, I used to piece my backs with just different kinds of fabric from the front, but now I just use solid backs.
And it's not quilted, it's just solid?
Yeah, just a solid piece. Yeah, it's quilted through, but yeah, I just use solid pieces on the back.
This one looks like it's got a cut edge on the right.
It's, you know, I did this for time purposes, because I didn't finish the binding until like yesterday. So I wanted to get this together. But it's bound now. I should show it to you. Wait a second. I'll grab. I'll grab it and I can show you what the back of it looks like. I'm gonna come out of the. Let's see. I have one. This is my last slide. Thank you, ladies.
Oh,
So
well, I
I'm
want
gonna,
to say thank you very much. Show us up close the backing of
Okay.
or your finished piece.
okay, I want to stop the share, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Here's a finished piece. In the back, I put a little hanging structure so she could hang on the wall. And then I sign it. I embroider my name.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is flocking?
Flocking is it's a process. Okay, this is my the way I always explain it. Like if you go to Disneyland and you buy a Minnie Mouse t-shirt, the ears are fluffy. You know, it's just that's flocking. It's a silk screen process. So I have like oil-based silk screen paint works better. Some people have started to use acrylic, but acrylic dries too unevenly. Oil-based paint, it takes hours for it to dry. So you paint your surface, you use almost like a rose mister, because the flocking is rayon dust. So you're spraying, you know, like multiple layers of this dust on this wet piece and let it sit for 24 hours, and you shake it off and you've got this beautifully flocked piece. It's so much fun. I use it a lot in my ceramics, but yeah.
So you put it on after the piece has been fired and glazed, and then you put the, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, you I know you've seen it a lot, like the inside of a wood box. Sometimes it looks like it's suede inside, or, you know, that's flocking. They use flocking in a lot of products.
Okay.
Can you show us your studio that you're in? It looks very interesting.
It's my dining room. I only have one sewing machine out, my Juki. I have two fabulous lights.
Wow.
I have fabrics in my bookcase, just lots of supplies and books. And my ironing board is over here. I have 5 irons too.
Wow.
And then where is your kiln? You must have a kiln.
I can't show you that side of the room. I have to kill you.
I understand my house is all art.
Yeah, it's all production. And I have some memorial quilts I have to work on. A friend of mine's father-in-law died, so I've deconstructed all his shirts. So I'm gonna do some quilts for them. But because I mainly work in solids, so you know that part's easy. But you see, I have a design. Can you see my design? My design wall is over here. You can't really see it. I've got a piece up there I'm working on. But it's all a jumble. I have a lot of fabric and a lot of thread. Then I'm getting ready to go to retreat, so everything's kind of all over the place because you have to make sure you take all your stuff.
So where's your retreat?
It's in Temecula. At the wineries in Temecula. There's a nunnery well, I don't think any nuns live, well, nuns do still live there. But it's this really just beautiful area where they have had retreats for years. And we just go and take all our stuff and sew for 4 days. And they feed us 3 meals a day. And it's just really cool. And they have this.
Sounds perfect.
Yeah, it's really nice. I've never personally seen any nuns, but I understand that there are some there.
How did you learn? How did you learn to do so many different types of art?
You know, if I was interested in something, I would just take a deep dive. I always started with beads. I started collecting beads at 7 years old. I love seed beads. Oh, I love beads. And then I did one of those mail order painting classes. I was starting to get sick. I was, my parents, they supported me a little bit. My father more than my mother. And then when I have a neuromuscular disorder called myasthenia gravis, a severe muscle weakness. So there was a 2-year period where I was kind of in the house and was having trouble walking, having trouble swallowing. I got down to like 89 pounds at one point. So that's when I started really beading and really doing macrame. And then there was this miraculous doctor who knew how to help me in New York. Went to New York for a couple months and had surgery and came back and was able to go back to school and get my life going again. I was lucky enough to graduate when I was 16. And that's when I got sick. I was getting sick, barely got through graduation. And like 2 months after graduation, I was in the hospital.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but the art is what kept me going. It's just been everything to me. And then I had a teacher. I was able to go, I went to Otis, couldn't stay there, was looking for a program, then Santa Monica College of Art, Design and Architecture. It was 160 students, $100 a year. It was amazing. It didn't last but 4 years. Then it had a different iteration, but it was wonderful. So I was able to work with some wonderful artists there and really realized that I've always done the art thing, but that's when I really got serious about it. Because I was always, I was trying quilting, didn't really get the whole quilting thing at that point until I did the one, the quilt, Minda's quilt. And then I realized the work that you had to do, the thought that went into it, the mathematics. I didn't realize there was so much math in quilting, but a lot of quilt designers now are engineers. It's really interesting. Former engineers, yeah. But it just, it's like the glass. I was taking ceramics, and just for fun, my ceramics teacher said, let's do some glass. I went, glass? He said, it's a kiln, so we did some glass and I got hooked. So of course I went and bought a kiln. Didn't touch it for a year. I was afraid of it. And then I started, and it was, it was fun when I started with the glass and taking classes and seeing quilt patterns everywhere. So that's when I did the dual work with the fabric and the glass.
It's so fun to see that connection. I'm sorry, I think I interrupted you.
That's fine.
I was just gonna say it's fun to see the connection between the glass pieces that you did and your quilts, especially a couple of them, like the glass piece that I think it was on the lower right. It was kind of minimal. And it related to me a few slides back where you had done a quilt on the left that was also very minimal. It was almost like looking through a doorway or something. And I could really see the connection between those two art forms and the way you were using them.
Yeah, I saw it all the time. It's like, okay, well, this was meant to be. So yeah, and it's fun. I love it. I just absolutely love doing everything. But now I have to stop myself because there's always equipment involved. I was like, okay, you can't do that. Because that's, I have so much equipment as it is, so I have to be careful.
I had a
So-
question. I was wondering the colors and the fabrics that you have. Your work is stunning. I think it's absolutely stunning. And I just thought, how do you, get all those colors just right? Do you dye fabrics? I really don't know much about quilting, but do you actually dye fabrics for the colors that you want, or you just find the fabrics with the colors that you want?
There's a company that I use, Robert Kaufman Fabrics, out of El Segundo. He has, I think there are 400 colors now he offers.
Wow.
And there's just so much color. I mean, when you go into a quilt shop and you see a wall of these solids, it just drives you crazy.
Yeah.
I do buy some printed fabric, but most of what I buy is solids.
Yeah.
So
They're
beautiful, and
from the rich color. I love your work. It's amazing, but the colors are so rich. And I was just thinking, how do you just find all the right combinations of colors? And I also love the way in some, almost like it goes back in perspective. I mean, the 2D patterns are absolutely beautiful, but then it's like, then you can read it, in different ways. I really found that really stunning in your work. And I was going to ask if there was a lot of architectural influence in what you do. Yeah,
definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all improv, so I don't have patterns. I have used patterns. There are a couple of things I have a couple male friends, and most quilts are kind of femmy looking, and I wanted to do the quilts for guys, so I found one that's really beautiful, and I've made two. I made one for my brother-in-law, one for a good friend, and I like it. It's like V's. Picture I can show you the quote, but it's really, really beautiful. And patterns just like a lot of people make bags and all these little utility things, and I just can't. I think I'm so used to working improvisationally that if I have to use a pattern, I really have to, it takes me a while.
Yeah. Do you have like your colors when you say you work in, I was trying to, because I don't know much about quilting, but do you have like your colored fabrics out and then you just like know like this color and this is going to work together? Because when you say you improvise, I was trying to figure out like how you went about that.
A lot of them are right here.
Mm-hmm.
See my color wall.
Wow. I see.
Yeah. So
so you refer to your like a color wall to
my wall. There is a fold out that has all of the colors, a brochure that they sell. But if I have them here, I just pull them. Like I have, I think 5 different reds.
Yeah.
And, so it's a really good choice. I mean, the beiges, go from creamy like snow color to dark brown that almost looks black, and everything in between. So it's really fun. It's almost like choosing color, it's choosing paint. And it just depends on how I feel. Like when I'm doing the more personal work, it's darker, like the grays and the purples and the black. I use a lot of black and a lot of red. But I'm trying to, like this little piece, is really bright. I wanted to, every now and then, a rainbow will pop in. I did they do sew-alongs all the time. So I did a sew-along of this really like 1/4 inch piecing. So I did like a rainbow with gray. So many pieces. So I don't, it's hard for me to throw scraps away because I can always use them.
Right.
So like here, see, that's one.
Yeah, it's amazing. It strikes me. Yeah. It strikes me how you can go from those like just tonal, the gray, those rich grays and blacks and whites, and work as so versatilely with also all the bright colors.
It's a lot of feeling, depends on how I feel. Like I did this piece for Lisa because I had a time limit, but I was taking a break from my show because that was a solid year of quilting every single day. And I just needed a break. kind of surrounded by projects that I need to work on. And projects I want to make for people. They don't know they're coming, but I have, because I give a lot of my quilts away. A lot of baby quilts. You always make quilts for people that get sick. And then, the work for your shows and stuff. I don't have that many for myself, but yeah, just always coming, always coming. I think I have 20 in the queue right now.
So I have a question on when you're piecing, like you mentioned 1/4-inch pieces, do you use a basting glue or adhesive when you're working with such small pieces, or do you just go right with the machine?
Every now and then I use glue. I use glue mostly for binding. That's when it's really helpful. But when I'm doing the smaller piece and it's harder to control the glue, I like to use the Elmer's school glue because it's like starch almost. It's not permanent for when you wash the quilt, it just goes away. But yeah, I use a lot of rulers, I use a lot of marking tools, and I use glue. In the small piece, and yet sometimes you can't use the glue because it'll go into the seam and then it'll show when you press it open. But I do use glue.
Okay, thank you. I just bought a new glue to try for basting, so I was curious.
What kind of glue?
I wonder if I can, oh, here's the bottle. My studio, I'm moving back into my studio after I had it's called Glue Based It. Whoops.
Oh, I have some of that.
Yeah. Do you like it?
I haven't used it.
Okay. Well, I haven't yet either, but I plan to soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you get a tip, the pointy tip, don't get a plastic one, and don't put a pin in it. Don't put metal in it because it'll rust. The glue will rust the metal. So use plastic. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's a lesson I love. I love to pass along. Don't use metal tips. Yeah.
So are you affiliated with a gallery, or do people just approach you for shows?
I'm with Craig Kroll in Bergamot Station. So yeah, I was with Coagula till just before COVID, because our installer guy, he became ill and he passed away. And Matt Gleason, who ran Coagula, wasn't able to handle the whole gallery on his own. Because he's the second baby in California to have a heart transplant. So he has he medically couldn't do it. So he closed down. And it was interesting because I was shutting my studio down because I retired. And Craig called me. It was just amazing. It's like, wow, I didn't even know he knew who I was. But he put me in a show, and then he asked me if he could represent me. And I said, So it's cool. He's a nice man. And he's been in Bergamot Station for 30 years. So that's great.
Thank you.
About how much do your pieces sell for?
They go from $500 to $7,000.
Cool.
Yeah, the last show was really good. we did well. I was really happy because you're never really sure how people are going to accept textiles.
Right.
Matt showed my pieces as abstract paintings. That's the way he referred to them. And it's nice that textiles are more accepted now. It's easier for them to go and see a show with textile. Some of the textile shows are better than some of the other shows I've seen. So it's nice to see a move towards other things that you just don't call it craft, it's art. It's not just craft, it's not just women's work. It's real, it's the real stuff. It's just a different medium.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah,
because it is happening.
Yeah, it's a really cool stuff coming up out there. Yeah.
Well, I want to say thank you very much for taking us on your artistic journey and sharing your art with us today.
You're welcome.
Ladies, are there any more questions?
Just want to say how beautiful everything is. It took me back to my grandmother who used to quilt with her friends back in the 100 years ago, whatever. And I still have some of her quilts, and it was so touching. It was so touching. The detail, and for one person to do it is amazing because she did it with a group.
Yeah.
The old ladies would get together and quilt, but your stuff is just amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you.